The other thing you absolutely have to know how to do throughout chapter 3 is convert various time periods to years, okay? So, like I said, you're going to encounter a lot of financial formulas in this section in this chapter, and every single one of them is going to involve a time value, okay? So think about it. If you went out and made that car loan we had talked about, um, you're going to borrow the money or agree to pay off the loan in a certain amount of time. Okay, so they're all going to all the formulas are going to involve a time period. Okay, and the thing is, when you plug in the time value into the formula, time has to be plugged in as a yearly amount. Okay, so I'm going to make a note here. So in all of our formulas, so in all of the formulas, time, which is going to be the variable t, must be plugged in as a yearly amount. Okay? There are lots of different ways to talk about time. It doesn't have to be presented in just years. Okay? The problem you encounter, the time may be given in months, it could be given in days, weeks, quarters, or it could be even given as a combination. So maybe it's so many years and so many months together. Okay? So whatever you're presented with, you have to be able to convert that time period to a yearly number. Okay? So that's what we're going to practice in example 3. We are going to convert 5 different time periods over 2 years. Okay? So let's take a look at example 3A, which is 14 months. Okay? There's 12 months in a year. So we know that 14 months would be just over 1 year. Okay? The first thing I want to tell you, okay, if you saw this and you had a problem and the time period was 14 months and you automatically wrote down t equals 14, okay, this is not correct. Okay, like I said, when you plug into the formula, time is considered to be a yearly amount. So if you wrote down t equals 14, this means 14 years, not 14 months. Okay, so this is not the correct way to do this. Okay, so don't make that mistake. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to convert 14 months into a yearly amount. Okay, like I said, there's going to be 5 different time periods we're going to work with here in this part A. I'm going to do it the long way with a conversion factor, and that is going to help us see a shortcut about how to do this where you can take any unit of time and convert it very easily into a yearly amount. So just bear with me for part A, okay? And you'll see the little shortcut here in a minute, okay? All right, so let's do this. We're going to use a conversion factor. So I'm starting with 14 months because that's what I was given. I am going to multiply this by a conversion factor. So that's going to be a fraction, okay? I am trying to change this over to years, okay? So this is what my conversion factor is going to look like. This fraction is going to have years in the top and months in the bottom, okay? The reason being, okay, if you have months in the top and then months in the bottom, the months cancel out and you would be left with years. So that's why I'm setting it up this way, okay? Now, 14 months is our time period. We cannot change that amount of time. So since I'm multiplying 14 months by something, essentially I need to be multiplying by 1 so that I don't change the amount of time that I was given, okay? So what we're going to do, this is how your conversion factor is going to work, okay? 1 year is the same thing as 12 months, okay? So 1 year is equivalent to 12 months. So really what this fraction has, it has the same quantity in the top as it does in the bottom. So really this fraction is 1, okay? Anything divided by itself is 1, okay? So it's unaltering the 14 months, okay? All right, so now we can multiply. You have to remember how to multiply fractions. You simply multiply across the top and you multiply across the bottom, okay? So 14 times 1 is 14, okay? And then in the bottom over here, that's understood to be a 1, okay? 1 times 12 is 12, okay? And then remember, if we have months in the top, that cancels with months in the bottom. And so our units are left to be years. Okay, so this would be your time value, 14 over 12. Okay, you can reduce this fraction if you want to. It is not necessary to reduce fractions when you're doing financial math, because at the end of the day, you're going to plug all these values into the formula, plug it into your calculator, and you'll still get the same number whether you reduce or not. So if it makes you feel better to reduce, go ahead and do it, but it's not necessary. Okay. If you chose to reduce this, okay, both of these numbers are divisible by 2. So you could have said 7/6 is also an appropriate way to enter the time. Okay, so either one of those would work. Okay, won't affect the final answer whether you enter 14 over 12 or 7 over 6. Okay, now something I want to show you here because it's something very important to notice. I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with fractions, and I get that. So you may be tempted to enter this as a decimal, which is fine. Okay, let's go do that. Okay, let's go put this into the calculator. Okay, so again, 14 over 12 or 7 over 6, you'll get the same decimal. So if we do 14 divided by 12, okay, here we go. All right, this is the decimal I end up with. Okay, what you should notice is that this decimal is long. It doesn't cut off. It actually repeats forever. The six repeats forever. So you may be tempted, okay, I'm going to enter my time value as 1.17. You cannot do that, okay? Here's why, and you're going to hear me talk about this again and again. When you're working with anything in Chapter 3, anything financial, you cannot round your answer. You cannot round anything until the final answer, okay? So if you had entered this as 1.17 for time, it's going to throw your final answer off, even by a few cents, okay? And that's not good. You have to think about banks, okay? Banks handle people's money every day. They can't be off by just a couple of cents, okay? You have to be really, really accurate when you're doing financial math, okay? So you could use the decimal. If you choose to go this route, you have to use the full decimal expansion. You would have to use 1.166666667 when you did the calculation, okay? So that is perfectly fine. It's a pain in the butt because you have to carry all the digits. Okay, so you are better off using the fraction form here, okay? But like I said, you can do the decimal, just make sure you carry all the digits, okay? Absolutely do not round it to 1.17, okay? It will throw your final answer off by a few cents or even more, okay? So keep that in mind, okay? All right, so there we go for part A, okay? Stick with the fraction form if you can, okay? All right, let's take a look at part B, 90 days. And there's a little note there that says assume 360 days in a year. We'll talk about that in just a second, okay? Oh yeah, I promised you a shortcut. Okay, hold on, let me back up to that before we do the 90 days, okay? Yeah, this conversion factor, you don't have to do that every single time. So look at our answer here, especially the 14 over 12. That's what we initially came up with before we reduced it, okay? Instead of going with the conversion factor, all you have to do for the shortcut, okay, if I'm trying to convert 14 months to years, okay, start with the 14 because that's what you were given and just divide by the number of months in 1 year, okay? That's all you have to do. You do not have to go through this long drawn out process of doing the conversion factor, okay? So basically, take the number you're given and divide by the number of units in 1 year. Okay, let's try it on B. Okay, so now we'll go over to 90 days. Okay, so let's do our little shortcut here. Okay, we are going to do, there's 90 days. That's what we're trying to convert over to years. Okay, 90 days is not even a full year. Okay, to convert this over, you're going to divide by the number of days in a year. Okay, the note out to the side says to assume 360 days in a year, okay? And I know we are all used to having 365 days in a year, okay? This is an accounting thing, okay? So maybe if you've taken an accounting class before, you've run across this, okay? Accounting usually assumes 360 days in a year, not 365. So for financial math, for our purposes, some institutions are going to go with 360 days a year, and some are going to go with the regular 365. Okay, you don't have to worry. You will always be told how many days to use, whether 360 or 365. Okay, so if here we were assuming 365 days a year, or sorry, we were assuming 360 days a year, we would divide by the 360. Okay, so this is what you would use as your time value. Okay, again, you could reduce this number if you chose to. Okay, both of these numbers are divisible by 10. So that would be 9 over 36. That's another way you could enter the time. Okay, that reduces even further. 9 goes into 9 one time. 9 goes into 36 4 times. Okay, so that's another acceptable value for time. Okay, if you plopped this one into the calculator, okay, so if we did 1 divided by 4, okay, this is a very clean decimal. It stops, it terminates. So this would be a decimal where it's really easy to plug this decimal into the calculation. You would just use 0.25 as your decimal, okay? So you could use that, okay? So all 4 of these are good ways to enter your time value, okay, for 90 days. All right, let's try the next one. Okay, so 6 weeks. Okay, again, all we have to do is take the amount of time we were given, which is 6 weeks. You're going to divide by the number of weeks in 1 year. Okay, there's 52 weeks in 1 year. Okay, so that is all you would have to do here. That would be your time value. You can reduce it if you wanted to. Okay, if you turned it into a decimal, make sure you carry all the digits with you. Okay, all right, part D. Let's look at 7 quarters, okay? Quarters is probably the time value or the time unit that we're least familiar with, okay? But again, accounting is very heavy on quarters, okay? So let's think about it. Think about what you know about quarters, okay? There's 4 quarters in a dollar, okay? So very similarly, there are 4 quarters in 1 year. Okay, so basically, if we're trying to think about a quarter, let's turn it into something that's more familiar to us. We're very familiar with months. Okay, so think about it. There are 12 months in 1 year. Okay, and we are going to take the 12 months and break it up into 4 equal parts because there's 4 quarters in 1 year. Okay, so 1 quarter is 3 months. Okay, so that's equal to 1 quarter. Okay, so this is not the answer to turning 7 quarters into a yearly time value. I just want you to get familiar with quarters if you're not used to it. Okay, 1 quarter is 3 months. Okay, all right, so now I will go over to the side and try to do the conversion, how we would write 7 quarters as a yearly value, okay? It's going to work the same way, even though we're not really familiar with quarters, okay? We were given 7 quarters. You're going to divide by the number of quarters in 1 year, 7/4. That's it. That's all you have to do for the time value, okay? You can put this in the calculator if you chose to, okay? 7 divided by 4, okay? You get a very clean decimal, okay? So you could also put in a time value of 1.75 years, okay? So this is your answer, okay? If you were plugging a time value of 7 quarters into your formula, you could use 7/4 as time. You could use 1.75. Both are acceptable answers, okay? Let's do one more example. So let's go over to the next page, okay, top of page 2, okay? You will see the part E, okay? So now we've got a combination of years and a little bit more, okay? This is going to be 4 years in 5 months, okay? All right, so you need to turn this into a strictly yearly amount, okay? So 4 years and 5 months, that's just over 4 years, okay? So your decimal should be 4 point something, okay? So think about it that way. All right, this is the easiest way to handle something like this, okay? We're gonna break it up, okay? Let's start with the 4 years, okay? So 4 years is how many months, okay? Well, if we do 4 times 12, that's gonna be 48, and so 4 years is 48 months, okay? And then we have the extra 5 months, okay? So let's add those two together because you have the 4 years plus the 5 months, okay? So if you take 48 and add 5, okay, that is going to give us 48 plus 5 is 53, okay? So 4 years and 5 months, that is 53 months, okay? You cannot enter t equals 53 because that would imply 53 years, okay? You want 53 months, okay? So your time value would be, you just need to, account for that, okay? Instead of 53, because it's months, it would be 53 over 12, okay? So that's how you do this problem, okay? And like I said, because this is just over 4 years, okay, if you did look at a calculator, okay, 53 divided by 12, okay, it's 4 point something, okay? So the decimal part is the 5 months, okay? Again, if you chose the decimal version, you would have to carry all of these digits, okay? So that is how you handle a combination, okay? So we will get lots of practice converting various time periods to years. But remember, when you plug a time value into your formula, absolutely has to be in years.